So could you all stand up and give a big Startup Grind welcome to John and David. No pressure.
Thank you.
So guys, thanks for joining us. We haven't done this with two people before, so hopefully there'll be no fighting, kind of work there. So just to begin at the beginning, you were both in college together. Can you just talk through how you met up, your early career paths and how they merged and eventually led to Action Point?
Yeah, I guess myself and Dave met the very, very first day of college, so back in '97. We got on like a house on fire, and 3 days later that same week I also met my now wife, girlfriend back then. So it was definitely a pivotal week for me. Whether it was a good one or a bad one is life will tell eventually, but certainly college for us was a great experience because we got to know each other and work very closely together over the 4 years, all our group projects we worked on together and so on. And then in UL there's a co-op as well, so you got to go on practical work experience. So myself and Dave got to work together for a couple of months on co-op. Then again in the summer, that exposed us to the company that hired us out of college. I worked in LA for 4.5 years. Dave worked back in Ireland, but we worked together in the same company. And what ended up happening at the end of that 4.5 year process was essentially that company, the product we built, it was a good product, but the market had turned because of 9/11, the dot-com bust, and a few other factors that didn't mean the company could be successful. And at the end of the day, we realised that the company wasn't going to last long term, but they still needed access to us to keep the product going and to try and make the best of the product. So it was Dave that came up with the idea that look, if we started out a company on our own and had a contract with those guys, we would give them the best shot of being successful by minimising the burn rate of having 2 developers on staff the whole time. So our first contract that was the starting point for Action Point was actually a 2 weeks a month contract with that company in order to make sure that we could still provide the support to make it continue going to market. And that product is still generating revenue to this day, but it just wouldn't support a full-blown company. So over the course of the 4.5 years working professionally together, we learned an awful lot about how to do software, both right and wrong, how to work with remote teams, because I was in LA and Dave was back in Ireland, and also from business perspective, how businesses grow and let's just say don't grow. So we learned an awful lot of lessons over that 4.5 year period that we then, I guess when we started at Action Point, we tried to learn from the mistakes, let's say, and then try and do it right. But we were very, very fortunate in that at the end of the day, relationships are very, very important. We built an awful lot of relationships over that period of time. That when we started Action Point, we had an awful lot of support from an awful lot of people, and we started getting a few small contracts, do them well, and then grow from there. So that's kind of, I guess, the whirlwind history of a 13-year period.
Brilliant. We had a quick chat yesterday, and I thought it was interesting that the product that you were developing, an SMS messaging platform, was used in the movie making industry. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is too easy.
So the folks at the software system was it was for corporate instant messaging before instant messaging was a thing. So we were focused on, there's 2 major industries. One was financial services, and the other one was the entertainment industry, and that's why LA was one of the major headquarters. So we had a very hard choice whether we'd work with them or not, because they did offer us in the first week of our summer holidays in third year that myself and Dave got an all expenses paid trip out to Los Angeles to meet with the likes of Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal Studios, Warner Music, the whole lot. So we thought long and hard as to whether or not we as poor students wanted to take that up, and in the end we decided, it was worth the pump. But I think one of the lessons from that one was, in fairness, the guys that ran that company, they saw that we technically were able to build a system. We proved that from when we were on co-op, but we didn't understand the users. So what they did over that week was they said, look, come out, meet the customers, meet the people that actually use the system. Now you'll know what the domain is. And we did that, and we came back with a system that, as I said, it's still generating revenue to this day. And essentially the primary target for it is really, really busy movie executives, whereby if they miss a call, they're gonna end up losing out on a multi-million-dollar deal, and they'll have 5 or 6 phones on their desk, and they need to be able to quickly respond to incoming calls. So that's kind of the main target market of that system.
Yeah, just gonna go back to the relationship piece, because I think people work with people they know, like, and trust, and I think during college, myself and John were unique in the fact that we got to know each other very, very well. We lived together during summer holidays. We worked together on group projects during university. So it was literally a different sort of marriage. Yeah, I was first, Mary. Okay, and I think I think relationships that's where it goes from there. And when we had the opportunity to go over to the States, I guess it was a very unique experience. I mean, in the year 2000, I think it was two guys who just finished third year, just before final year, and somebody says, "Hey, do you want to come to Los Angeles, meet prospective customers?" Of course, we jumped at it, And one of the interesting stories, the funny stories, was when we were out there. We got to a skyscraper on floor 35, and you could actually feel the building move. We met the guys in Universal Music Group, we met the guys in Disney, we met a number of different talent agencies, and these are people who would manage talent like Keanu Reeves, for example, and they'd negotiate contracts on their behalf. So we really got exposed to the real entertainment industry in Los Angeles. But we used to then go out for dinner, and sometimes we'd be out for dinner ourselves between us. So we'd go out to a restaurant and we'd be sitting there with notepads writing notes about, what did we learn today, and if we were going to develop this application, how might it work? How is this bit going to work? How is that going to talk to this? And so we're getting this amazing service all night from this restaurant. And towards the end, one of the waiters comes up to us and says, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind us asking, are you guys restaurant critics?" And just because we've been writing notes in our notepad, so we got superb service, all the bells and whistles. So it was a great trip, and we came back then, and the company, they set up an office for us inside in what was the Innovation Works out in Plassey. It was called the Innovation Centre back then, and I think it was Office 64, if I remember correctly. And there was two of us in there, 2 desks, 2 Dell computers. I still have the keyboard from that computer today for posterity, I guess. And over the course of the subsequent probably maybe 10 weeks, we developed an application from scratch that went to market that replaced a manual kind of, let's say, like it was like a glorified calculator on people's desks that would communicate from desk to desk. And we replaced that with a software system that, to John's point, it's still being sold today. So I think we proved ourselves back then, and I think we probably learned a lot about each other on that journey as well. And I think that's what it forms the basis for a really good partnership. And from myself and John's perspective, I mean, we've been working together for a long, long time. I think when you know each other that well, I think it's bound to succeed because you both want to succeed, right? And that's the thing, you know what I mean? You always overcome a challenge because, while myself and John at times would our relationship again, come back to relationship, well, we might have differences of opinion. It's only because we actually care. You know what I mean? It's not because, there's any other differences. It's because actually we care in the end result.
Just in the early days, those early wins, do you remember like getting your first big contract? And can you just talk us through that process of, bootstrapping? Because basically you didn't take funding, did you? You bootstrapped all the way. Were there hairy months and weeks and in the early days, making ends meet? And what are particular memories of getting a couple of big wins?
I think there's some funny moments, all right. So when myself and John first spoke about setting up action points, John goes, "Well, look, I'm not sure, I'd ever thought about actually moving back from Los Angeles, right back to Ireland." And we had a good chat about it. And he goes, "Well, do you know what? This is, I'd actually do that if I had something to actually focus on and something that we could succeed at. This is a great idea." And I think that was something that appealed to John. Again, having that autonomy to do your own thing and be in control of your own destiny. And when John flew back in, is that for me? Is it? When John flew back, he said, "Look, I'm going to come back at Christmas. Let's sit down." Back of a napkin, literally. We kind of, we wrote out a few kind of objectives, a few goals, a few kind of how this might work. And I guess that formed the basis for forming the company. And John coming back from Los Angeles, then we realized, well, this is actually serious. You know what I mean? So John is due back in September. We'd be finishing up the project that we're currently working on, probably August. He's got to pack his boxes, move back, and all the rigmarole goes with that. So when we negotiated the contract with our employer and with the guys in CopyType, we basically had income, right, at that point in time. So what we did was we said, look, we can't carry on earning what we're earning if we're actually, in inverted commas, giving this a go. So we made sure to stockpile some money, right? So even though John wasn't in Ireland actually working in Action Point at the time, the initial 4 or 5 months of the business that we were working, I was constantly squirreling away money, so I took a pay cut down to just enough to survive and pay the rent, so that those money will be there. When John came back, John also took a pay cut, and the money was there. And we, between us, over the course of the next 18 months, we built up a 6-figure sum in the bank on deposit. That was an extremely strong place for us to be, so it meant we didn't need external finance, but we had to make sacrifices to do that. And I'm glad we did, because at one point, John had a bad back injury, and through that time, he couldn't work really for a month. He was trying to code lying on his back, right? And that's practically impossible. So how can you earn a keep like that? But we had the money there. Do you know what? It's okay. We can do these things. So I think we always took that cautious approach that, we have to make sure that we have some resilience there and security there for the future. So yeah, we had to take sacrifices, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, but I don't like on the wins. I guess the wins for us have been pivotal. Have been the wins that when we won them, we almost regretted winning them. It's kind of like the ones that really stretch you, they're the ones that make you grow. So I was talking to someone here earlier who had just won a national competition to represent Ireland at an international event, and the concern is, how do we do this? Well, that's the ones that make you grow. So if you tread really cautiously and you don't push the boat out and go for the things that are beyond what you're doing right now, you're going to end up staying where you are. So like the one major one was, I remember it was the debt collection system for the eFlow back in 2008, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And we were in there on a consultancy basis, and then all of a sudden we were basically asked, could we develop a system for the project? And I remember on a call with Dave on a Friday evening going, listen, I'm in Dublin here and we got to develop this system. We've got 7 weeks to the deadline. I'm not sure how we can do it. So we brainstormed out a strategy. Well, it's going to be a couple of phone calls to a couple of friends to call in a few favours. And we had literally 2 or 3 friends who ended up for 3 weeks working their 40-hour week, but then coming in the evenings and working another 4 or 5 hours with us on various elements of the system. And that, for me, back to the question about leaving coding, that for me crystallised for me where my value is and this is a key part of growing as you lead a growing organisation, is you got to find what it is that's the essence of what you do that is your most valuable input, and find ways to achieve everything else otherwise. So for that, like by me changing how I approach things from actually writing the code to actually just literally drawing the big boxes and coordinating the team, I was able to then get a team of 7 or 8 people coalesce around this one goal and get a 6-man-month project delivered in 7 weeks. And by virtue of doing that then become the flagship project that the next time something big came along, we're like, well, we deliver that, so now we can deliver this. And it becomes this ratchet stepping stone type approach. But if you're not open to that sort of challenge and find a way around it, and then, back to the relationship comment early on, knowing that you've got that relationship with so many people that you're going to get help when you need help, and ask for the help. They're the sorts of things that are all the little secret sauce into the success over the years.
So as the business grew, then obviously a team grew. What are your sort of key takeaways from those early recruitment days? Did you make mistakes? Are you still both involved in the interviews and recruitment?
Yeah, like we've had a few unique ones over the years. No, like more to be honest. Look, I mean, the old statistic. I mean, the guys in CPL, I'm sure, will be able to say, well, it's 1 in 5 don't work out or whatnot. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the statistic is, right? But from our perspective, I think head, heart, stomach. Those 3 have to be aligned when you meet somebody. I think people talk about going through a recruitment process and ticking the box and making sure they have all these skill sets and qualifications, experience. That's all fantastic. But if I can't work with the guy, if we can't connect and communicate, what's the point? You know what I mean? So it's doomed to failure. So I think you can put all the science you like into recruitment, but fundamentally, if you don't actually gel with the person, it's not going to succeed.
Yeah, I think like the team, Action Point is the team. So, if I was to say what's great about Action Point, one of the first things I would say is the people by a mile, and we've put an awful lot of effort into building that team. But ultimately, when you kind of distill what does that mean, it comes down to like company culture. And one of the key things that we've done over the years is paid an awful lot of attention to how do we work, how do we communicate with each other. We never enter into the blame game. We kind of go, right, how do we fix these issues first and foremost? How do we keep the customer informed first and foremost? How do we get them back up and running as quickly as possible first and foremost? And then when we do look back on what went wrong, it's not to find out who did what, it's to find out what systems and processes were broken that we now need to fix and address. So it's that sort of way of working that you need the right people for with the right mindset. There's no politics or turf wars or any of that sort of stuff. It's absolutely, it just kills productivity, and it changes the focus from being the customer to being internal. So we're very, very clear on that. And like from a hiring process perspective, I would say it's only probably in the last 18, 24 months that on the software side, I'm not involved in pretty much every interview. So at this point in time, all but the most senior interviews are devolved out to the management team, and that alone, that you can only do when you've got a management team in place that are fully aligned with the culture and the goals and everything else in the organisation, which we do. And that's part of that whole growth process, is getting to a point where you realise, well, I can't interview everyone. The 75th person means you've actually probably interviewed 10 people for each role. That's nearly 1,000 interviews. Yeah, there's no time for that.
Yeah, right.
So, but you got to get everyone aligned. That's critical.
Yes, I suppose just to add to that, as the company grows, the challenges you have is that I guess not everyone's motivation is the same within the business, right? So as the company grows, working for an organisation that has 8 or 10 people versus working for a company that has 80 plus people, it's entirely different. So when you first start working in the business, you may have a wide range of responsibilities, and the role could be quite vast. And certainly in SME, in that startup mode, you're motivated by keeping that customer happy, because you keep the customer happy, you're going to get paid, right? If you don't keep the customer happy, you're not necessarily going to get paid. So everyone's motivated, everyone will work through the weekend, everybody is bought into the why and the need to keep that customer happy. As the company grows, we start to lose that connectivity, that direct connectivity with the customer. And our customer now becomes our team, to John's point. If we can keep our team happy, they can keep our customers happy. So our job is to make sure our own customer, our team, is happy. And what we've realized, I think, over the last number of years is that some people would prefer to stay in an organization that has 10 or 12 or 15 people, and they like that wide range of activities. Whereas when you step into that next level, you now are hiring more specialists. Right, so that brings with it its own overhead, its own challenges, and we ourselves have to adapt our own thinking to understand and manage them and get out of their way. And that's our biggest challenge, is actually letting them do what they're hired to do. And it's hard, because Action Point is our baby. You know what I mean? And it's like he's dad and I'm mum, or vice versa. But it is very much like that. So what we found over the last probably couple of years is that we've had a few leavers in the business. And we've had a few joiners. So while the staff numbers may not have grown significantly, the capability of the team has really gotten sharpened. And I think that's where we are now. And we're in a place where I think we have a very strong foundation now for future growth. And I think growth is stepped. You take a year out every now and then, or 6 months, and you've got to make sure the foundation and the engine that you're building is actually ready for the next step up.
So you've got some great Irish customers like Chill Insurance, Munster Rugby, Vox Pro, and then you've got like partnerships with Dell and Microsoft. At what stage do some of those customers become partners, or how important is that partnership relationship?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the customer is obviously is the king, right? That's what everyone says. The customer comes first, and actually your staff comes first, your team comes first. Again, it comes back down to keep them happy, the customer's happy. But obviously you don't grow if you haven't got customers. And what's been great about some of the companies you mentioned there, for example, Chill Insurances and Voxpro in particular, some amazing success stories there. Both of those organizations, one had 40 staff and the other had 80 staff when we got involved with them. And as Voxpro grew from the 80 to I think it was 2,700 staff by the time they sold to TELUS International, a Canadian firm, and Chill Insurances has grown from 40 to 320. Highly automated organisation. For argument's sake, they're actually a tech company. that sell insurance product, and Voxper, again, a very, very tech-centric company. So as they've grown, they've enabled us to grow and scale. Right, so it's in a way we grow on the successes of the previous arrangements with our customers. And John made a point earlier that you got to challenge and push yourself. Some of these customers would really push us. Their expectations are higher than what we'd ever anticipated before. So, when you're called up to a meeting in Dublin for a 6 a.m. meeting with, the former CEO of Digicel in the Caribbean, and he's complaining to you and a number of other vendors and partners to their business, it makes you sit up and go, hold on a second, these guys operate in a whole different world. They don't have a clock, they work when they work, and if we want to stay as part of this journey, we have to grow with them, and we have to force ourselves to provide that service, otherwise we lose them as a customer. But customers like FoxPro, like Chill, like Kirby Group, for example, another huge local success story, they actually push you to be better than you are. And by pushing you and being better than you are and stepping up, it actually makes you an attractive potential partner for other businesses. So you build up a head of steam, you do good work, it leads to more work, right? And equally, you need your vendors behind you, supporting you. So, we're Dell Partner of the Year for 2016, same in 2014. We're Microsoft SMB Partner for 2017, Partner of the Year for Ireland. And those relationships are huge, because if we need support on a deal, or we need assistance to close a sale, or need technical support on something, we know who to pick up the phone to on a first name basis. And that gives us an edge as well.
Excellent. You won a really interesting contract last year for the online Department of Foreign Affairs passport renewal, the online applications. How did that come about? How did you win that? How did you hear about that?
Yeah, so that was with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, so that was a very, very big winner, right? It's the second only online renewal system for passports in Europe, and we think the world, but wow, to be confirmed. So the way it came about is we started working with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade back about 6 years prior to that. So we did the online booking system for that, going back to about 2010 or thereabouts, whereby, the queues used to happen outside the passport office where people were waiting for 2 weeks, they wait a lot longer than that, but they wait in line for maybe 8 or 9 hours in the middle of the summer to get their passport. They just disappeared when we put a booking system in place, and people showed up at the right time, and it was great. So we built up a good relationship with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade during that, when we understood their business and what motivates them. Then they put the tender out back in middle of last year, and we actually, it's the year before, we're 2018 now, we responded to that and got the project. And then the first thing we do then as part of that is we sit down with them and go through in absolute detail every single screen and every single part of the system needs to be built. So what we built for them is everything that you see when you as a customer use our service. So when you go to passportrenewals.ie and you go through, I want to renew my passport, I want to get a passport card, I've got an underage child or whatever it is, well then that's everything you touch is us. And then we also integrated with the PhotoMe photo booths. So if you do a digital passport photograph in the PhotoMe photo booths, we actually worked with PhotoMe to automatically do systems integration there. And that's really, really important, because what we identified very early in the project was a major risk in the usability of the system was how the hell do you get a photograph of yourself up into the web application. So when we identified that risk and called it out, then we brainstormed what solutions were. PhotoMe came into the mix, and we were able to then do a full systems integration with them to smoothen out that customer journey and then deliver what everyone has seen to be a very, very easy to use system to do what used to be a complex and painful project. But also from Action Point's perspective, like a key challenge we have is that an awful lot of our software systems are internal line of business applications that aren't public. So when we say what our marquee projects are, we say, well, we do the debt collection system for eFlow, but no one has ever, the only people who've ever seen anything but from that have ended up in jail, so they're not our friends. So it's very hard for us to have marquee projects that we can talk about. So for us to get the passport renewals project has been an absolute game changer. And we've literally gotten quite a few phone calls come into the office from people saying, just renew my passport, I need to do something similar in my business, can we talk? Right. So it's become this amazing advertisement for us as well.
You've won a lot of major awards. I know you've won, I think it was 3 years in a row you won the Deloitte Fast 50. 4 years in a row, the fastest growing companies in the country, and you've got the UL Alumni of the Year award, along with Hugh O'Donnell, our guest from December. How important are awards? What do you do with them? What do they do for you?
Well, go straight to our head, obviously, Pat.
Besides that.
No, once we come down off cloud nine. No, look, to be honest, awards are great. They're super for credibility for the business, for the conversation you have with the customer. So we're Deloitte Technology Fast 50, 4 years in the trot. We are Deloitte Best Managed Company 2 years in a row now, 2017, 2018. Dell Partner of the Year, Microsoft Partner of the Year, and receiving the Alumni Awards was a huge honour for John and myself for Entrepreneurship Day in November, I think it was. So what does that mean? I mean, really, look, it's validation and of what you're doing, right? That, you know, we're obviously doing something, because like John and myself don't stop and look in the mirror and go, hey, I'm a great guy. You know, we just don't do that. It's a case of actually, you know, you just crack on with the next job, and you know, we're work focused, we're work oriented, and we want to see Action Point grow and scale. But actually, you know, aside from credibility when you walk into a client and you're pitching for business, and, you know, aside from referenceability, having great customers, having those accreditations is, again, reassurance for the customer that A, you do things right, B, you're on a good trajectory, it's an interesting story, and you've got the great support of the vendors behind you. Right, you're an ideal prospective partner for me as a customer. But to be honest, it's a case of, we don't get those awards. You know, it's actually it's the team successes, right? And when we go back to the office and say, hey, look, guys, we're Dell Partner of the Year, or we're Microsoft Partner of the Year, or we've just won this big project, the debt collection on eFlow, or, you know, the online passport renewal system, it creates a buzz around the office that, you know, it's almost validation for the staff that, hey, wait a minute, we're actually working for a company that's doing exciting, innovative, different things, and we're getting external validation, verification that I'm in the right place. And, you know, I've done good work.
Yeah, like what I had to, like, just the local Limerick Chamber Awards, the regional awards are absolutely fantastic, and they were some of the first awards we won. So, you know, we're a 10, 12 person company, and for us to win that was all of a sudden fantastic. It was a huge validation internally, but from a customer confidence perspective, all of a sudden the credibility question just disappears.
Yeah.
You know, they've won Regional Chamber Awards, happy days, you know, so very, very powerful. But then also from the internal motivation one, I remember explicitly the first Dell Partner of the Year Award in 2014, Dave and the lads were off on their junket in Greece, I think it was, or something, so I was left back home minding the camp. But the morning after it was announced, I made a point, I went around to everybody in the office that was in the office that day, and I said, you know, thanks for the award because you contributed in this way. So I made sure everyone was aware of what they were doing within the business that contributed to the fact that we won the award. Because sometimes people in the business kind of think, well, they're just like a tiny cog in a big wheel. But even at the size we're at, everyone has got a very explicit part in the process. And if they're not aware of it and don't see it, they just don't connect with it. So by going around and telling everyone, you know, everyone across the team what they had done that contributed to the credibility that got us the award, I think was a great benefit to have that opportunity. You know.
When Hugh O'Donnell was our guest recently, he made reference to yourselves and that you were on his Ingenium leadership program. Yeah. How important is that sort of personal mentorship and that formal training in leadership?
I think life is a lot of serendipity in life, right? You know, there's a lot of providence in life as well, in business as well. Sometimes, you know, like you don't know what's going to happen around the corner, but you have to have a certain leap of faith, you know, without being religious, right? But you have to have a certain belief that, look, the phone will ring even if the month is quiet. Now, when John and myself sat down, and I mentioned earlier that back of the napkin plan, you know, I think the next time we refreshed our plan was because we were applying to the local Limerick County Enterprise Board for an employment grant for a first employee. We had to do a business plan for this, and we had to do cash flow projections, and we're like, well, I'm tech, you're tech, what the hell is this about? You know, so we managed to mash something together anyway. But it forced us to sit down and actually think about where we're going and what we'd like to achieve. So that business plan that we put together, we had in that, you know, we wanted to have 10 people. We wanted a turnover of maybe €1 million one day. We would like to maybe one day win a Deloitte Technology Fast 50 award, maybe even a Deloitte Best Managed Company award. We wanted to be larger than Fitzpatrick's Computers inside in the city. We had a number of little kind of goals that we'd set out. And the funny thing was, when we met Hugh O'Donnell, and Hugh was establishing Ingenium and was looking at running his first a program, the Smart Choice Leadership Program. You know, like personally, I think I guess I might have been in a bit of a dark place, so to speak, right? Because we've gone through tremendous growth. We had an absolutely rock star year in end of our financial year in April 2017, and we just ticked the box for best managed. We've gotten the Deloitte Fast 50 4 years in the trial at that stage, and all those original goals that we had set out, on that draft that we had applied to Limerick County, we'd actually achieved. So now what?
It's a real first world problem, I have to say. But
it is. But this is what happened. It was like, okay, well, now what? So there's an element of, right, okay, well, where do we go from here? What's the next step? Because so in a way, I think as a leader, sometimes you can get a little bit lost in the moment in a way, right? So from that regard, there's a knowledge gap, and you don't know what you don't know sometimes, right? And enter Hugh O'Donnell, this Ingenium program. James Ring is the CEO of Limerick Chamber, invited us into a breakfast briefing, free breakfast, fantastic. Hugh was speaking about this program he was thinking of running down in Savoy, and I went up to the top of the room at the end. I said, "Hugh, listen, you signed me up, and yeah, John's going to do it too." But that, I suppose, the job of a leader is different to the job of a manager, is different to necessarily an entrepreneur. There's a role of a leader, and I think John and myself, we carry technical degrees, technical qualifications. Everything that we've done, every exam we've ever sat, has pretty much been technical, right? So long ago in college that it's cloudy in your mind in terms of any of the accounting modules that we did. You know what I mean? So the relevancy, it's only the leadership or growth or business or strategy. So starting that program actually focused on leadership, we learned an awful lot about what leadership is and what it means to be and what's expected of us. Because I guess we hadn't necessarily that maturity. And now we now have I suppose experience from that program. We've learnt new methodologies, new tools. We've had a great opportunity to gain some self-awareness. Right? If you have self-awareness, you can self-regulate, you can self-manage. Then you can actually address any deficiencies that you have. So we learned an awful lot about that, and Hugh's program with Ingenium, again, I'm hugely complimentary towards it. If anyone has the opportunity to go on that course, I would highly recommend it. There's quite a bit of work involved on a monthly basis, but it's very manageable, and it's a journey of self-discovery. And on the back of that, we now, since then, have refreshed our strategy. We have 3 themes. Our first theme is having Action Point is a great place to work, because if we look after our people, we look after our customer. If they're motivated, we have happy customers as well. The second side of things is about resilience in our business, so that there's no overdependency on one individual, that we have a nice balance of managing risk in the organisation, and that we've good systems and processes. And the last theme now is about sustainable growth and profitability, having a good mix of things like recurring income versus one-off project income, so that when you start a year, you always have that base, that you're never starting from scratch. So Ingenium and that journey of discovery, that journey of strategic renewal, has been invaluable for us. So
brilliant. Before we go to the audience, I'm sure there's a lot of questions being thought of there at the moment. Obviously software development is a large part of your business and support, but the whole IoT projects, outsourcing of IoT projects, has been a large part of your business. Where do you see the trends there? What do you see the future in terms of tech and IoT and?
Yeah, I think I've been in the tech industry long enough that trend. I know not to predict the future. I'll put it that way. But I think, fundamentally in the IoT space, there's been an awful lot of discussions over the last 3, 4, 5 years around everything that IoT could do. But what's happened over the last 6, 12 months is finally it's crystallising on what will it do. And looking more at the real valuable uses of IoT. And I think that's one area that we've been banging that drum for about 1.5 years now. I've done a few talks at Delhi MC World and a few other conferences around the notion of, you got to focus on value. Because I guess when it comes to technology, if you focus on technology as a starting point for your project, you will fail. you have to focus on the business value. What is a use case for it? And that's the key thing we do is like we'll start out a conversation with IoT. We will very, very quickly turn around into what is it you're trying to achieve? What do you think IoT will do for your business? The whole smart fridge idea sounds fantastic, but no one's going to buy a £6,000 smart fridge that tells when their milk's gone off. They're just going to buy new milk. It's a whole lot cheaper. It's that sort of tough thing that like there's a lot of things that like blue sky thinking is great, but like where we see IoT going in particular, let's say, is that we see smart manufacturing, industrial IoT, and I'll actually just mention the Confirm Centre with Conor McCarthy set up locally with the university and so on is a fantastic thing to have in the local area, and we're heavily supporting that. But like what smart manufacturing is about getting the data that's currently on your manufacturing line and actually bringing it up to the management level so that the management can have insights and visibility and be able to react quicker to something that's going wrong. But an awful lot of what IoT does is it takes the data from the physical world and moves it off up into the cloud. And the problem then you have is visualizing the relevance of that back into the physical world is difficult. So that's where I did a talk here about a year ago about HoloLens and augmented reality, and we're actually exploring a couple of projects with a few manufacturing companies now whereby we're combining HoloLens with IoT information so that when you walk around the factory floor you're seeing all of the IoT data put back in the context of the physical world. So the HoloLens is able to augment reality with information that's all digitally there. So you don't have that challenge of having 25 reports that no one understands how they relate back into the physical world. You literally look at a machine, you see this hasn't been serviced for 2 months. Or you look at a machine, you see, well, the throughput over the last hour was this, which is down X% compared to the previous hour. So that sort of kind of rolled up thinking whereby it becomes this seamless overlay on the real world. I think that's, it might be 5 years out, it might be 10 years out, but I think this notion of kind of going to your PC to get information to go back to the physical world, that'll slowly but surely fade away, and it'll be something that we just have, at the moment we have in our pocket, but it'll be just overlaid as we walk around, and that's kind of, I think, where ultimately things will go.
Brilliant. Finally, could you give both your top 2 tips for startups? So, John and David in the audience, 18 years of age.
Don't do it. No. I think your motivation is up there as number 1, right? What do you enjoy doing, right? Because life is a journey, right? And the last few years they're getting bloody faster. They're going by faster and faster and faster. And if you don't enjoy the journey and don't enjoy what you do, it won't be easy for you. I think if you enjoy what you do, you're better at it, you're good at it, right? The challenge and the trick is to try and find what you enjoy doing with what people will pay for and with what you're good at. If you can find the intersection there, that's the first thing. If you don't like that and aren't happy in what you do, you have to find a way to love what you do. Otherwise, you will not succeed. So, that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is you don't know what you don't know. Like myself and John finished college like so many graduates, and you know what? We know everything. Well, I still know everything, to be honest. But you actually don't know what you don't know. So continue to invest in yourself. Stay up in, I suppose, up to date in the new technologies, but also, universities, they exist for a reason. There are knowledge hubs, there's new ideas, there's new concepts, and when you get exposed to some of these, you can apply them to yourself, to your business, and you get that self-awareness. So those 2 things I would be the 2 things I would say.
Brilliant. Thanks, David.
I guess the 2 I'd say, for example, would be oftentimes when you start out as an entrepreneur, you are turning what you do into a business. That's you're really good at this thing, so you're going to make a business out of it. The fact of the matter is, if you want to grow the business, you have to be prepared to step back completely. If you're a control freak and you think you still have to do everything, you're going to fail. So, like we've had a phrase for the last 6, 7, 8 years that we're always trying to make ourselves redundant. So, if either of us were still doing what we did even a year or 2 ago, we'd be holding the team back. So our job is to, you got to realize your job is to understand the domain that your business is working in intimately in order to enable the experts who are doing the job to do it to the best of their ability and to support them and to back them up and to give them the guidance, whatever. But it's about enabling others and then focusing on the bit that's unique to you or that you think is most valuable until you can get that gap filled. So that's number one, is you got to be prepared to step back. If you think you're going to start out a business doing X and you will still be doing X in 5 years' time, you have another thing coming to you. And then I guess the other one is just define success. It's very, very easy to start up a business saying, I'm going to be successful. So what is successful? It's the whole 5 whys question. If you ask 5 whys and you're still giving a salient answer, well, then you've got the essence of it. But sometimes people say, well, I want a lot of money. And it's like, well, is that really success? You know, what about work-life balance? What about leading people? Is that what you want to do? Do you want prestige? What is it that you want to do? And I think in the early days, as Dave said, we almost did it accidentally, whereby we set out on this back of a paper napkin on literally an A4 sheet, which I uncovered in my house when I have a 2-year-old kid. So when he's been born, I was losing my last room in the house that was mine, and I was just trying loads of old paperwork, and I found this old piece of paper and I brought it to the office. But we laid out what success was, and when we revisited it, we'd actually had pretty much ticked all but 1 or 2 of the boxes on it, and it was great. But that was, as Dave said, that was the point then where we're like, well, okay, now what do we want to do? And it's the now what question you always have to be able to ask yourself and answer. And that's what the journey's about, is to find the next step.
Okay. Brilliant. Will you all join me in thanking John and David for sharing their insights with us?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.